Caffeine is a bullshit, worthless, idiot fraud failure. Okay, that might be an over-exaggeration, but let me explain. So you have caffeine, right? It's this little chemical that works by binding to adenosine receptors in your brain. What's adenosine? Wow, you really know nothing, do you? Adenosine is another little chemical that is produced by your brain when your cells use energy. When your brain burns ATP for energy, which is literally adenosine with 3 phosphates attached to it, all you're left with is the pure adenosine. So it builds up while you're awake. It binds to adenosine receptors. And you really don't know what a receptor is? All right, here we go. A receptor is a protein on a cell that receives signals from chemicals that bind to it, and an adenosine receptor does exactly that, specifically for adenosine and its various subtypes. Adenosine is an inhibitory chemical, which means when it binds to a receptor, it tells that neuron to slow down, making it less likely to fire. The buildup of adenosine is a reflection of how much wakeful activity your brain has done. It increases during periods of wakefulness and decreases during sleep. It is your brain's way of measuring your need to sleep. Now, a caffeine molecule and an adenosine molecule walk into a bar, except the bar is an adenosine receptor, and they don't walk because they don't have legs. Anyways, the bar owner sees an adrenaline molecule attempting to waltz in. He tells him to get the hell out. Apparently they don't serve their kind here. I forgot to mention the bar is, well, I won't say racist, but definitely not very inclusive of differently shaped molecules. Adenosine only. But wait, how did the caffeine molecule get in then? Well, the bar owner looked at him, saw his remarkably similar shape to adenosine, and went, close enough, and let him in. However, that silly goose of a bar owner should know that just because they look similar doesn't mean they act similar. See, when adenosine gets to the bar, aka the neuron, he takes a seat and orders a bunch of drinks, causing the bar staff to get tired. But caffeine is built different. He takes a seat and he orders nothing. He just sits there and makes sure adenosines can't. Eventually, the whole bar is full of the caffeine schmucks, just sitting there and doing nothing. This causes a bunch of angry adenosines to accumulate at the door, waiting until there is more space. What I'm trying to say is that while adenosine activates the neuron and slows it down, caffeine just sits there and blocks the receptor. This is called competitive antagonism. Now, adenosine usually also inhibits the release of excitatory chemicals like dopamine or norepinephrine, but caffeine allows them to flow more freely, which is why you might experience mood and focus-enhancing effects, as well as increased brain activity. The brain also interprets elevated neural activity as a possible emergency, and in the past, an emergency meant danger. So it triggers the sympathetic nervous system to signal the adrenal glands to release adrenaline, causing possible side effects like racing hearts or shaking hands when taking caffeine. Anyways, when you're done with your caffeine-induced panic attack and your liver metabolizes a whopping half of the caffeine around 6 hours later, those receptors that were previously blocked become available again, and all those adenosines that were waiting impatiently outside the bar just come rushing in. And boy, are they angry. They flood your receptors with absolutely no regard for how you feel about it, and trigger a huge caffeine crash. Your energy plummets, and your productivity just slows to a crawl. So while everyone is taking caffeine to give themselves energy, that's not what it does at all. It's just a dumb fraud pretending to be something that it isn't, so it can steal its rightful owner's position, only to not do any of the work. Sort of like your coworker at McDonald's.